The full title of this speech is Jam Today, Unlocking the Power of Meanwhile Use. Here's a photograph, a most powerful photograph of a greenhouse which has been left derelict for 20 odd years, and it just sits there and slowly crumbles away. One of the things which I am so concerned about in all walks of life is about waste. Now, a lot of waste that we see today in fast fashion, it vanishes. It's over there somewhere. It's hidden away. It goes out to some East African country, and we never see it again. Food waste can be plowed back into the ground, and we never see the food waste. But this kind of waste, this structural waste, is sitting right in front of us, and we can't even see it. We don't even appear to be able to do anything about it. The idea about meanwhile use is about doing something now before you maybe have an intended plan, maybe in 5 years' time. It's about making sure that we make the best use of the space that we have in an island of 9 by 5. So we must make sure we do that. A couple of examples, big examples, are the Eiffel Tower. Now that's okay, you can say it's a meanwhile use. It's a use which was a temporary use. It was a use which was set up for a great event, and then after a while everybody got so used to it that it actually became the permanent use. And I think this is the thing, we have to be brave when we go and start thinking about meanwhile use. We have to be brave that sometimes the meanwhile use becomes the permanent use. So what do I mean by jam today? Now, you've all heard of Alice in Wonderland. And, well, I hope you have heard of Alice in Wonderland. I know a few people haven't. And Through the Looking Glass. Jam today, the Queen famously says, well, when Alice asks, where's there jam today? Why is there no jam today? And the Queen says, well, there's jam tomorrow and there's jam yesterday, but there's never jam today. My argument is there always is jam today, and we need to start thinking about how we apply that idea. And that's why I'm also standing here today as a TEDx speaker. I'm standing here as a TEDx speaker because, once again, I'm coming back to my meanwhile use, I very much feel like government is not listening to some of the questions and challenges that I'm bringing forward, and instead looking at jam tomorrow instead of jam today. So I'm standing here almost as a plea as a TEDx speaker to our government to say, please listen to this speech because it's really important what I've got to say. So the most important thing, the most important message in all of this is about people before policy. COVID put policy before people. So politics comes along, as it does, and I became housing minister. Now, housing minister is an interesting challenge. There's about affordable waste. There's about, the affordability was the big issue in when I was there. It still is today, but it's extraordinary how unaffordable homes had become. We had zero interest rates. The roof was coming off the housing market, as it were, and people were saying, we cannot afford to buy any homes. So one of the things which I come back to is on my waste theme, and that was, as the housing minister, we started to look at vacant homes in Jersey. Now, Jersey's got to be one of the most expensive locations to buy a home in, and yet we've got hundreds of vacant homes. It just doesn't make any sense. And then you turn over to London and you have a look at seeing what's going on in London. And in London area, there are 135,000, this is a stat produced by the Empty Homes Network, of long-term vacant homes. And behind that, there are 55,000 people who live in London who don't have a roof over their head. And then after that, if you go into one of the districts in London, I was looking at Wandsworth, there are 13,790 people on the housing waiting list. I quickly say, do the math. How can we have vacant homes over here and all these people demanding homes on the other side? Why are we not joining the dots? And Jersey has exactly the same issue. This really difficult problem, and it is a difficult problem. It's great to see one of my team from my housing days sitting here who sat in that group of people trying to locate where those vacant homes were. So what we did was, we said, right, okay, how are we going to locate these homes? Because there was no data, there's nothing, no evidence, we'd walk past them, nobody collected any data, nobody understood what the problem was, the scale of the problem or anything like that. So I was sat with my team, and everybody said, well, I don't know what you're going to do, Minister. I'm not sure how you get around this. And then someone said, why don't you pin a sign on a door? Why don't you pin a sign on a door that says, please contact me. If you can't get this house moved, please give me a call, and we'll find out, try and understand the problem, and we'll try and go and help you out. And that triggered this real interest. It caused us to create this empty home service, which Kevin here helped man. And what the idea was that individuals who were out walking their dog or their whatever, or their friends and family, would go past an empty home, and we'd say, take a picture of it and pin it, and then send that information in to us. Would you believe it? In 6 months, we had 260 homes sent in to us by the general public. I mean, that's an extraordinary way to collect data. It really engaged with the community. And it was exciting to be in. It's about this idea, again, of thinking about jam today instead of jam tomorrow. What we must know is the need is now. The need isn't 5 years away. It's not 10 years away. The need is now. And that's why we need to take action now. Jam today. And now we come into, this is another site, which at this moment in time is sitting there vacant. And these big sites, which you see behind me, they're sort of cleared in anticipation of a new building taking place. They're going to be used in 4 or 5 years' time and be developed. But what's going on now? What's going on now? Why are we not using them now? We're digging up green fields. We've got all sorts of building sites going on. Green fields, virgin green fields out there. And yet we've got brown fields sitting here not being used. What we want parks. We want playgrounds. We don't want building sites. So why are we not being brave and courageous and thinking about what can we do? And one of my thoughts around this is we really do need to bring in what I call a transitional planning process, something which says if nothing happens within a year, you have to find something else to do to use that site. So my favorite topic of the moment, a few of you may well recognize, a place called Fort Regent. And it's a real challenge because it's a massively expensive site to keep going. I want to quote Bob Dylan, Blowing in the Wind. It's a kind of a sort of take on his line, and that is, how many reports does it take till we know that we pretend that we just don't see? We know there is a problem. We know that there are issues. But what we have to do is, I come back to my point about prevention. We want people to be active. We know people are inactive. What we have to do is we have to work harder. At this moment in time, this site is going to close down at the end of this year. And that's I say an easy decision. It's not an easy decision. It's a challenging decision to have. But the more difficult decision to make is to keep it going for the community so that activities can still carry on over the coming years. Because, as we know, too often sites are closed down and they never reopen. They shut down 1 year and everybody says, oh, I've got a good plan for it. The next 5 years we'll reopen it. And lo and behold, next time it's 20 years down the track and nothing has moved on. Prevention is absolutely something we need to work hard on. I come back to it. People before policy. And now we come to the greenhouse, the glass houses. For me, this is one of the most powerful images in all of the footage that I commissioned to be shot. It just shows time going by. It shows the sky changing, the light changing. But the one thing that doesn't change is that wasted asset, that island asset we're wasting still. I talk about the solution being today. The problem is a problem today. We have a housing problem. We have people who can't get buy a home. We have families who want to get into homes. What I saw in Poland was prefabricated homes, which were actually being exported to the Scandinavian countries, where they were using them extensively. But we sit here, we could so easily, if we just had the desire to change the rules. I get people are fearful about building in the countryside, but what if those were flattened and you got prefabricated homes in? What if they were the ones and we cut through all of that red tape and made homes for people today. Maybe in 5 years' time, 10 years' time, demand might not be there anymore. They're prefabricated. They can be taken away and done with. On the other hand, it may be that they become the permanent use. They're not the temporary use anymore. They become the permanent use. Surely that is better than leaving sites like this for decades because the planning restrictions say, oh, no, 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 you can't touch that. It's in a green zone, da-da-da-da-da-da. We have to change the rules. Otherwise, we just end up with derelict sites like this. And so it's interesting to come here. This is in the private sector. This is yet another building site. And I talked about red tape and the impact of red tape and the slowness of decision making. Government is here to serve us and serve the economy and make sure we have a better life into the future. And so I end with this, my talk, saying we've got to be brave. We've got to seek out the meanwhile use. We've got to identify the need today, and we've got to be brave to make the big decisions today, even though we may be unsure going forward that that was the right decision. But sometimes, as I find as a business person, you just simply have to make a decision. You have to do stuff. And sometimes I find I've made loads of mistakes in my business, but if I can make more right decisions than wrong decisions, I'm still in business tomorrow. And that's where we need to be courageous and creative. We need to, as I said before, fight for people before policy. People before policy. We've got to think about people. Forget all the planning rules and you can't do this and you can't have that and all the rest of it. People, what do people want? What's the need of people at this moment in time? So we need to be thinking about that today. I finish with my final line. Make jam today. And I'd love to develop a website which is actually entitled Jam Today, because I think that could be a global thing brought out. Not just a little local idea brought in with regard to housing, but I think so many societies, so many people around the world, so many people in built-up areas could have an impact. If they could point to their government and say, I'm not happy with that, here's the site I'm not happy with, and by the way, here's my idea about what should happen going forward. So I hope you enjoyed the talk, and those are my ideas. Make jam today. Thank you.